History of the United States Air Force. The United States Air Force became a separate military services on 18 September 1947 was the implementations of the National Security Act of 1947. The act created the National Military Establishment, later renamed the United States Department of Defense, with a composed of force of the five branches of the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and a newly creation Air Force. Prior to 1947, the responsibility for military aviation was divided between the Army for land-based operations and the Navy and Marines Corps for sea-based operations for aircraft carriers and amphibious aircrafts. The Army created the antecedent of the Air Force on 1 August 1907, which through a succession of changes of organization titles and visions advanced toward eventual separations of 40 years later. The production organization leading up to today, U.S. Air Force are World War I and between wars. World War I in 1917, upon the Americans' entry into World War I, the first major U.S. aviation combat throw was created when an Air Force services were formed as part of the American expeditionary forces. Major General Mason Patrick commanded the air services of the AEF. His deputy was Brigadier General Billy Mitchell. These aviation units, some of which were trained in France, provided tactical support for the U.S. Army, especially during the Battle of Saint Michael and the Meuse Argonne offensives. Among the aides of AEF air services were captains Eddie Rickenbacker and second Lieutenant Frank Luke. Concurrent with the creation of the combat forces, the U.S. Army Aviation Establishment in the United States was removed for control of the Signal Corps and placed directly under the United Secretary of War. An assistant secretary was created to direct the Army Air Services, which had dual responsibilities for development and procurement of aircraft and raising and training of air units. Which the end of the First World War, the AEF's air services was dissolved, and the Army Air Services in the United largely demolished in 1920. The air services became a branch of the army, and in 1926 was named the Army Air Corps. During this period, and the Air Corps began experimenting with new techniques, including air-to-air refueling and the development of the B-9 and the Martin B-10, the first all-metal monoplane bomber, and the new fighters. Billy Mitchell air power cut marteled Americans was fascinated with aviation in the 1920s and 1930s, and refused to allow War Department conservatism to block innovations. Generally, Billy Mitchell, the deputy director to the Air Services through to wrest control of coastal defense away from the Navy. He went public, insisting that his planes could sink battleships any day. Acclaim Provence, which with a series of tests with culminated in the sink of the SMS Outfisland. Mitchell lost his self-control in 1925 when he assumed the navy in the process. In a press release in completely criminal negligence and almost treasonable administration of the national defense, he received the highly publicized court material he wanted and was allowed to expose his theory that air power alone would sacrifice to win the next big war. He convicted and resigned. And he became a popular hero, and public opinion forced and the War Department of strengthen the Air Corps. Military main argument was the air power had to be atoms had to be controlled by failures who understood the new technology, new tactics, new strategies, and who would not waste precious air assist in trying to assist old fashioned armies and navies.